Welcome.
Thanks so much, Sally, and thanks so much for the opportunity to talk to so many of you about some of our linked data assets. And I love the analogy of a tasting plate. I'm going to try and get through 4 linked data assets, so maybe on the canapes before everybody sits down. I'll just try and share my screen. Can everybody see that? Can everybody see that? Sally, can you see that?
We can see it, Jessica.
Okay, great, thank you. Is it in slideshow? Possibly not. Hang on. There we go. So thanks again so much. And I'd also like to start by acknowledging the traditional owners on the land in which we meet. For me, that's the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation. And I pay my respects to elders past, present and future, and extend that to any Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people who have tuned in today. So as Sally mentioned, I'm Jessica Stewart. I'm the Executive Director of Family and Community Insights Analysis and Research at the Department of Communities and Justice. So we do statistical and economic analysis and modelling, research and evaluation and performance reporting on behalf of the department. And we cover quite a large range of areas, from child protection, out-of-home care, targeted early intervention, homelessness and social housing. And our department, in fact, covers an even broader range as we came together from the former Family and Community Services and Justice departments 2 years ago. So we now cover courts, justice, corrections as well. So it's a very broad remit. So our current purpose as a department, as one department, is to help create a safe, just, resilient and inclusive New South Wales in which everyone has the opportunity to realise their potential. I know that sounds broad, and that really is because of the broad remit that we have as a large department. I've included here some of our most high-level priorities, and these are relevant to our research strategy, which I'll come to in a minute, and our research linked data assets, which I'll cover as well. And I've included a bit of detail here, and I understand you'll get a copy of our slides. So this is something you may want to come back to. But essentially at the highest level, our government and our department's priorities are covered in our state outcomes, our Premier's priorities and our closing the gap targets. And they really cover creating safe communities, reducing offending and reoffending in the community, making sure people have a safe and affordable place to live, improving child and family safety and improving community cohesion, as well as running an effective legal system through the courts. So I'm really excited to talk to you today about our brand new research strategy. So it's the first Department of Communities and Justice research strategy as one department, and it's the result of extensive consultation across the department about what are the key areas in which there's evidence gaps. It's not topic specific, but each year we'll be setting more specific questions around different topic areas that relate to these five research priorities. So I'll just go through these. So the first is around understanding the needs and experiences of all of our clients and communities to better inform service delivery and program development. The second one is how can we do research to investigate how to improve the quality of the services that we provide and the quality of the programs that we provide, thinking about how they're implemented, the processes and the quality of service. The third is really around intervention research evaluation. So how can we test the effectiveness of programs and services delivered in the community, and what components of those programs and services work for different cohorts. And I should mention a lot of our services at DCJ are provided through NGOs across New South Wales. The fourth priority is supporting Aboriginal-led research, and we have an internal program of work around Indigenous data sovereignty, and one of the critical aspects of that is Aboriginal-led research. And the last is around quantifying the economic benefits of the services that we provide. So in this context, with our research strategy and our policy priorities, we have a number of linked data assets that I wanted to introduce to you all today that are available for researchers to do research projects based on our policy priorities. So the four that I want to cover are the New South Wales Human Services dataset, the Pathways of Care longitudinal study of children in out-of-home care, our social housing linked dataset, and our Pathways to Homelessness linked dataset. And we have a range of publications that have been produced from each of these as well, which I'm happy to share some links following this presentation. So the first is the New South Wales Human Services dataset. Now, this was brought together a few years ago. We're up to our second update and about to finish our third. So it currently has data up to the 30th of June 2019, soon to be updated to June 2020, and later this year to June 2021. This is a very large data set with really broad-ranging data. It has 29 years of data, so it includes all individuals who were born on or after the 1st of January 1990, who have had a service record across any of the New South Wales government data sets that are included in the data set, as well as their parents, other family members, guardians or carers. And it was put together to really look at vulnerable cohorts of children, their experiences and service use, and particularly their outcomes and long-term liability over time in terms of costs to government. So it has millions of records, over 60 service delivery or frontline data sets, which you can see here from 11 government agencies. And next month, we'll be receiving the linkage that we've done of this data set with the Commonwealth MADAP data set, which is held by the Australian Bureau of Statistics. And that includes census data, tax data, MBS and PBS, and education and welfare data. So this is an immensely rich data set. And I'll talk a little bit later about how we're facilitating access to that. The second one is the Pathways of Care longitudinal study. So where the Human Services dataset is very broad, this is a really specific targeted cohort of 1,000 kids who we've now followed for 10 years or more, who first came into care between May 2010 and October 2011. And we've now linked that to a broad range of data sets, which you can see along the right-hand side. And it's complemented and linked to really rich surveys, face-to-face surveys with caseworkers, the children, their teachers, and their caregivers. And we also have in the entire data set 4,000 children, and that rich survey data of a subset of about 1,000 children. We also have a huge range of publications from POCLs, which is available on their website. The third, and I should mention too that that's currently housed inshore at the Sachs Institute, and it's open for researchers to access based on our current research agenda. So the third one is a social housing linked data asset. This is another linked data set that was put together recently to be able to support one of our largest reform areas in social housing and to do the evaluation of that large scale reform across New South Wales. It's particularly put together to look at the effectiveness and efficiency of our social housing reforms and programs. And it includes 1 million people either living in social housing, receiving rental subsidies, or on the New South Wales Housing Register. So that's people who are waiting for social housing. We've got 7 government agencies data in there, and you can see through the legend, the New South Wales versus the Commonwealth data set. So it's linked to Commonwealth data with 10 years of data and more than 50 million records. We also included a survey that we sent out to social housing tenants that looks at their experiences of social housing and their outcomes. And the last one I wanted to mention is Pathways to Homelessness data set. So again, this was put together to answer really critical questions around specific cohorts of people who were at risk or who have experienced homelessness. One of our Premier's priorities is around reducing rough sleeping to zero. This was put together to really look at some of those key pathways, and are there places where we could intervene earlier to try and prevent people using our homelessness services, but also the effectiveness and efficiency of the homelessness services that we provide. And you can see in the table at the bottom the list of different data sets that are included in the data set. So lastly, just in terms of how we're facilitating access, we've spent many years creating these linked data sets, and we really want researchers to be able to use them, as well as other people working across government. And this has now become quite a big priority for New South Wales Government. How can we make these rich data assets more available to researchers? So we're working with the Department of Customer Service at the moment, where the Data Analytics Centre is, to be able to facilitate better access through things like a data passport and a data concierge facility, where researchers can be able to access some of these data sets based on the training and the requirements that you might need to go through, such as a Working with Children's check. We're also creating a capability hub, so that would include training, guidelines, metadata related to all of the different data assets. And as part of this work that we're doing with DCS, we're also setting up an evaluation data lab, which will allow us to test the effectiveness of programs and services across New South Wales, using particularly the human services data set, and a journey lab, which would have aggregated data, but fairly disaggregated, but slightly aggregated above unit record, to be able to use an interactive tool to be able to visualise pathways for different cohorts through New South Wales services, as well as their outcomes. So I might just stop there. My contact details are here. If you're interested in accessing these data sets and doing research around some of our priorities, I've put there the email of Merrin Butler, who's our Director of Statistical Analysis, Data Governance and Research in FACSIA, and really keen to take any questions.